All right, everybody, welcome back to the WatchWell Podcast. I'm Parker, and this is my co-host, Nick. Nick? How's your week, man?
My week was good.
Dude, we're in a studio.
We are, well...
The same studio, not a digital studio.
Right. Makeshift.
Physical.
But it's also a makeshift studio.
Makeshift studio.
It took us took you about 2 hours to...
2 hours.
to set up.
You know what? It took me 6 hours to drive here.
Yeah. Took you 6 hours for a 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah.
The snowstorm.
The snow, man. It was awful. I was white knuckling the steering wheel. Something fierce, man. But okay, so we've got a good episode today. We're super, super pumped. I think we're doing Back to the Future right now.
We are doing Back to the Future right now. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Back to the Future. I'm excited because I've had some I've had some thoughts on the drive here about it.
Because is that why it took 6 hours? You're watching the movie, watching Back to the Future while you're
No, I didn't watch the movie while I was driving.
That's why you were scared to run off the road. It's not because of the snow.
Yeah, no, I was definitely paying attention to the road because it was snowing. We were doing 35 and a 70 for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I will say...
Wasn't it longer than that, though, right?
No, it's like 2.5 hour drive.
Right, but it took you like 6. Right?
It took
you like 5 hours.
No, I think we left at like 3.
3? You got here at 7?
Yeah.
So 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we left at like 3.
Yeah.
But anyway, Back to the Future. So I think, I don't know, I have some ideas about the movie on a few different ways that it could go, and I'll probably forget them. But I do have notes somewhere that I might have to look up.
You have somewhere
that
you took while driving.
My wife took while I was driving. So I'm excited to talk about that, and then yeah, I think you've got some good questions in here too. So it should be a good episode. Yeah. Okay. So do the social media thing, guys. If you enjoy the podcast, like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. We want to hear your guys' opinions. We want to hear, some stuff that you can take away when you guys watch movies well. And share, if you could do us a favor, share our trailer, specifically the trailer. So if you go to YouTube, you can go in and you can select the link and share it with somebody and tell them your favorite thing about the podcast. Either the favorite episode, favorite live stream, maybe favorite biblical concept or something that you like from it. Share that with a friend with the trailer link, and then tell them a little bit about what we do so that they have an idea, and just kind of help us spread that. And then also go to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and follow all of our social media accounts. Real quick, just as a kind of like a celebration type thing, we have had almost 30 new subs, and we got them in like 2 days. Mm-hmm. 2 days. And I got raked through the coals in the comment section on that one short that got us 30 comments or 30 subscribers. So we're thankful for that. Thank you to all the new subscribers, and
thank you to the commenters even.
Yeah. For sure.
Insult you.
They insult me, and I respond.
Call you names.
They call me names. Yeah. It gets rough in the comments, but we rejoice in our suffering.
I remember, and I don't know, we're not going to get in, but I remember one commenter said something like, "This comment section is everything that's wrong with our society."
Yeah. That's true. And I left if you want to go find that comment.
Go look at those comments.
Yeah, go look at the comments. It's a lot of fun. And if you are a Christian and you want to stick up for me, I would be okay with it. But okay, so let's get into this movie. Nick, do you want to hit us with the normal kind of rundown?
Yeah. So Back to the Future was made in 1985, was released in 1985, rated PG, so for parental guidance. And I think 1985, this was still before PG-13 was a rating, I think. I could be wrong about that. I don't know the exact time frame, but I think that's the case. The IMDb rating is an 8.5 out of 10, and this is the 30th ranked movie on their top 250. So, IMDb has all of the movies ever made, basically, and this is all of the ratings. This is ranked number 30 of all movies ever released. Rotten Tomatoes, critics have this at 93%. Audience has it at 94%, so both love it. The critical consensus is inventive, funny, and breathlessly constructed. Back to the Future is a rousing time travel adventure with an unforgettable spirit. And then just for some entertainment purposes, if you're interested in this kind of thing, this was a huge hit back in 1985. $215 million at the box office, which today doesn't seem like that much, but in 1985 was huge. It was a lot. Back then, if you adjust for inflation, it's probably somewhere in like the 800 or 900 million. It's crazy. So 388 million worldwide. But so rated PG. What are your thoughts? I know you've seen this tons of times.
Countless of times.
What are your thoughts on how old somebody should be before they watch it? Because this predates Plugged In, so we can't go to Plugged In and look at their age ratings or anything like that. So,
I mean, it's a pretty clean movie.
It is, but I still think if it was made in a PG-13 world, so when PG-13 existed, it would have been PG-13 instead of PG. Because there's a lot of
PG. So before that, the range of PG, the PG is pretty wide.
Yeah, it would go G, PG, R.
I would say.
There's a lot of.
I mean, I think there's a lot of swearing, but I think I watched this movie when I was like 9.
Yeah.
So I would say like 9, 10.
I think we watched it with Liam when he was probably 7.
Like it's. I'm gonna go with 8 or 9, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'd say 7, 8, but I think.
And then just tell them don't swear.
Yeah, there's so many movies that I watched when I was younger that I watch now, and I'm shocked at like some of the content that was in it because I never noticed. And I think this is one of them. So I'm shocked at how many times they swear.
Well, in the innuendos, like the sexual innuendos and stuff like that, you go over your head. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't remember. Like I was even thinking, like I wonder if I could watch this with Link, and she's 6. And then I heard all the cussing and stuff. Well, maybe not yet.
Yeah.
So.
But even, I mean, you can apply that same logic to Disney movies today. Like, there's a lot of stuff in Disney movies. Like, there's a DreamWorks movie. I think it's DreamWorks. Ants. It's got a ton of famous people in it.
It might have been.
I think it was DreamWorks. If you guys, correct me down in the comments, but I think it was DreamWorks. And I mean, there's like Sharon Stone.
It is DreamWorks because Ants and A Bug's Life came
out at the same time. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And like Sylvester Stallone is in there. Like there's a star-studded cast for that animated film, but it's like pretty raunchy. It's a really raunchy script.
I've ever seen Ants.
It's a pretty raunchy script. So like I would not let my elementary kids watch it. That's just it's a animated movie.
Yeah.
So it's pretty nuts. But Back to the Future, I think I'm gonna stick with like 8, 9, somewhere in there. I think that's what I'm gonna stick with.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I agree with that. You just have to be ready for the cussing. Like if you have to know that that's coming, or else you're going to be shocked by it. So synopsis: this is in the 1980s. In this 1980s sci-fi classic, small-town California teen Marty McFly is thrown back into the 50s when an experiment by his eccentric scientist friend Doc Brown goes awry. Traveling through time in a modified DeLorean car, Marty encounters young versions of his parents and must make sure that they fall in love or he'll cease to exist. Even more dauntingly, Marty has to return to his own time and save the life of Doc Brown. Talk about high stakes. I have to save my very existence. If I don't succeed in this goal, I will no longer exist. My brothers and sisters will no longer exist. And not only do I have to do that and make sure that happens, I also have to go back and do what I can to save my friend from being, shot, because the movie opens and
Right.
he's shot in that.
Right.
It's not the very opening scene, but it's really close to the beginning when that happens. So yeah, this movie has incredibly high stakes, which I think, in my opinion, obviously contributes to the quality of the film. Like, when you have a character that is struggling and in that dire of a situation, it makes everything that happens feel more valuable and have more weight.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the high stakes that Marty's facing, even though this movie is funny, like
it's very nostalgic.
So many comedic moments in there, like some of the diner scenes, and even like the I'm trying to think of the scene. There's a diner scene where Biff comes in. I don't remember if it's the first diner scene when they're in the 50s, but there's just some things that I thought were funny in there. But all the while being like all those comedic moments, it's in the surroundings of this dire situation.
Right.
And it's like
they made it easy to follow, and they made this terrifying situation fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
And that's not normally easy. It's not easily done.
Yeah.
To where it's this lighthearted, kind of comical, but everyone will die if you don't succeed.
And it's kind of what Marvel movies try to do, but the Marvel movies don't do it as well as Back to the Future.
It's so good. It's so good.
Because what Back to the Future doesn't do is, when there is an emotional moment, they don't just make a joke to get rid of that emotion. Like in the Marvel movies, something will happen, a character will die or almost die, and then somebody makes a really, quick, funny joke, and the weight of that moment is gone. Like, Marvel movies never actually, except for maybe like Endgame and stuff, they never actually let you feel the weight of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, when something bad or something big does happen, it lets that breathe, and it lets you feel that. Even though it still has a lot of comedy and things like that. So I just think it does a better job than even Marvel movies do in that.
I would agree. You're right. So it's almost like Marvel movies do it more like shots at tequila.
Okay.
And Back to the Future is more like enjoying your beverage. It's like more of this marathon of this comedic, fun world that you get to take part in, like you're enjoying a drink, as opposed to this almost like shot of humor and then back to heaviness and then shot back to heaviness is, I think, what you're kind of saying.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of a dumb example, but yeah, I think that I think that well, I'll wait to talk about that here in a second. Let's talk about the characters.
Okay.
Michael J. Fox. So shout out Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd is Emmett Brown. Michael J. Fox was Marty McFly. A lot of people are going to know this stuff because it's been out for so long. But Leah Thompson is Lorraine Baines. McFly. Crispin Glover is George McFly, and Thomas F. Wilson is Biff Tannen. Okay, what are your initial thoughts on the characters?
I don't know where to start. So first off, the characters in this movie, I would say, are fully developed. They feel like real people. They feel like, in a sense, there might be another way that they don't, but like in terms of story, they feel like real people. Like they're all of them, from Marty McFly being the main character, Doc Brown, and then even the characters with smaller parts. They feel like real people. They feel like characters that you can care about, that you can follow, that you want to you want to root for the people that you're supposed to root for, and you want to root against the people you're supposed to root against. So I think that's all good stuff. I can't imagine anybody else other than Michael J. Fox.
I can't either.
Playing Marty McFly.
It was like the role. I don't know if it was. You know if the role was written for him?
I have no idea.
I don't either. But it was as if.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And he was. I don't know what time frame Family Ties the sitcom was on, but so he was pretty famous because of that sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was early 80s to maybe late 80s. But yeah, I can't imagine anyone else ever playing that role. And I can't even Doc Brown. Like, I don't think. And Christopher Lloyd is like he is the embodiment of that character. And maybe it's just because
he did such a great job. It's like the Joker can't ever be done again.
Yeah.
Because of Heath Ledger.
But it has many times.
But that's why they keep failing.
Right.
Is in the shadow of Heath Ledger. So
yeah.
Okay, so I want to jump ahead here.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep.
If you had to recast this movie, since we are on this topic, who would you pick? And we can kind of think this out.
In today's actors?
Today's actors.
So if they were going to reboot.
We're doing a reboot. All three Back to the Futures.
Who could be Marty McFly? Man, that's hard. I don't think I can think of anyone off the top of my head. Because they've got to have.
There's Marty's cool, but he's kind of a nerd too.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to think of. Like, they have to have that cool factor. They have to be. They can't be too cool though.
No, they can't be too cool.
You can't have.
You can't have like Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
Or somebody like that, or Jason Statham. I know these guys are much, much older than what we would be looking at, but I think you might have to find a newcomer or something.
Yeah, the only actor that would even be close to the age range that I know of is like Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah,
from Dune and a couple of Wonka. But I think he might even be too old. Because I think he's late 20s, so he might even be too old for the Marty McFly role. Which I think Michael J. Fox was in his late 20s.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
Playing a teenager. But I'm also not up to date on like the young actor, like the really young actors. Yeah.
Like the people, like Netflix is using a lot of the younger ones because they're doing, my brother, the rest of my family watch it. What is it? It's kind of like the Goonies, I think. I've never seen. Yeah, Stranger Things, and then I think there's another one out too that's kind of similar. Okay. But I'm not sure, and I don't have Netflix, so.
What about one of the actors from It? Would any of them? They're a little too young.
They're too young.
Yeah. Yeah, that character.
That one's
Marty
tough.
McFly is hard because you could do a 20-year-old or older. You could cast them in that role, but they have to look like a teenager.
Yeah. I think. Okay, so what about Doc Brown? Do you think? I always forget his name. But do you remember? He was the weird planet ruler guy in Thor, one of the Thor movies. Not the first one or the second. What was it? I think it was Love and Thunder, but he was also in Independence Day with Will Smith.
Jeff Goldblum?
That guy. Do you think he could play? Do you think Jeff Goldblum could play?
It would be very, very different. Because I don't think he ever plays anything other than himself.
That's probably fair.
Like, he's entertaining, and I think he's good, but I don't know if he's ever anything other than himself. Like Jurassic Park and everything that he's in, he's basically just...
But other than that, I don't know if I could pick somebody else.
Maybe... what's his name? He's... What's his name? He's in.
I told you I would spill that drink.
Did you spill it?
Yeah, I knocked it all the way over, man. It's been on the floor. It's completely spilled.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll have to clean that up in a minute.
There's a carpet there.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's worse. I don't know. He's in a TV show called Counterpart, and he was he James? No, he's the guy that plays J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man.
Oh.
So he's the reporter in
I don't remember his name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. He does the State Farm commercials.
Yeah, he does the State Farm commercials.
Or not State Farm.
Not
it's
whatever
it is.
Company. I think he could do it. I think he could do Doc Brown.
You think?
Yeah, I do. I think he could do it.
That's not bad.
That's the only guy I could think of right now. There's probably lots though. But he's
okay. So what about we're like really blanking on names.
I know.
We're usually pretty good at this.
Yeah.
What about the guy that plays Robin in Dark Knight Rises?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Yeah. What about him from Marty McFly?
If this was back then, I think so, but he's
too old now? You think? Yeah, he's too old.
I think he's in his 40s.
But he could play the old Marty McFly.
Yeah, he could do that. You mean in one of the
Or maybe Marty's dad.
He could do that.
He could probably play...
do that. Because he's also smaller
Christopher.
in stature. So
or not Chris. He could play George McFly.
Yeah, because he's smaller in stature, so you can see him as somebody being bullied. He gets bullied a lot, maybe. What about Biff?
I think that would be easier to cast.
You do?
Yeah, than the other ones. I don't know if I'd be able to think of it right now, but I think that would be easier to cast. I think that you could do... Who could you do? Could do...
Is anybody that's good at being a jerk?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of that more bully type. You know what would actually be kind of funny?
What?
I don't know if I want to say it. No, I'm not going to say that one.
Just leave it.
Okay, well, Roadhouse is coming out, and Conor McGregor is going to be in Roadhouse. It might be funny to see a Conor McGregor Biff.
Yeah.
He could be a bully.
He can be a bully. I don't know what his acting chops are. Has he ever been in a movie before that? Is this his first movie?
I'm not sure, but I don't know of a movie that he's been in.
Isn't it crazy, like, fighters becoming movie stars? Like, that happens all the time. But, basically anybody that can act like a jerk could probably be Biff. And then for the mom, I don't know, because I don't know that the girl that played the mom was even famous when she was in this. So
Marty?
Just an unknown.
Yeah.
Just an unknown.
Safe and sound here in 1855. Yeah.
Would you use a new version of a DeLorean?
Oh yeah. You would still have to use a DeLorean.
Yeah.
But you'd have to do something cool with it.
Yeah. Because I've seen a modern,
or they would use. It'd be really fun if this would be really fun. It wouldn't be a DeLorean, but they'd have to recreate the flux capacitor. Okay, and then it'd be really fun if they put it in Marty's truck.
That'd be fun
because it would have been like a great grandkid that the truck was handed down to.
Yeah,
because he loved his truck, and he ended up in that truck, and that I think that would be cool.
So with all that said, are you surprised they've never tried to remake it?
With as many remakes that happen today, yes, I'm surprised they haven't tried. Yeah. I don't know why they haven't done it.
Or other than make a sequel.
They made 3 of them.
Well, they made
a trilogy.
Top Gun was 30 years after. Top Gun Maverick was 30 years after Top Gun. You had there's been so many movies where they call them legacy sequels, like that. It's been 20 years or more since the original that they come out with.
My favorite Back to the Future movie is the Wild West one.
Yeah,
I love it. It's so fun.
I'm still partial to the first one, but
yeah, they're all so good. They're just fun. It's just fun. It's good, clean, fun for the most part.
Yeah.
All right, let's just keep moving here because we could riff on that for a long time. We're gonna get into our themes. So we've got 3 official themes, and as we talk, we may have a 4th.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll
see how it goes. So the first theme is dissatisfaction with family, and your status in life. 2 is George and Lorraine. 3 is cause and effect of sin and righteousness. And then we'll just put number 4 as Parker's mystery box at the end, because it's going to be kind of all over the place.
Okay.
It's more of like a
This
dialogue.
is what you were thinking of on your drive.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Right.
And you didn't dictate that to Kayla.
No, I did.
You did?
Yeah, I've got the notes
Oh, you've got the notes.
right here
All right.
on this smaller iPad as opposed to this big iPad.
The larger one.
So let's jump in. So I think the first one was yours, right?
Yeah, so dissatisfaction with family life, or family and status in life. So I just think it's interesting because when you meet Marty McFly, you have this contrast. Marty is, when you meet him, you know, he's skateboarding, he's the cool kid. The principal is kind of like getting on him and he's looking for him and stuff like that when you first meet him in the movie. I don't know, I can't remember what the circumstances are around that. But you have this contrast of Marty, who's the cool kid. He's kind of smooth. He's a smooth talker. He's not afraid to get in trouble. And then you have the contrast with his dad, who is just essentially
A nerd.
coward. A
Coward,
nerd, but a
nerd.
coward. He's afraid. He's not the type of guy to take risks. He's bullied. And you have this dissatisfaction in Marty when he looks at his dad. He doesn't see somebody to look up to. When he looks at his dad, he sees somebody who's weak, somebody who gets bullied. Yet, even with that being the case, you can still tell he absolutely loves his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And his dissatisfaction is coming from a place where he sees his dad as more than his dad sees himself.
Yeah.
Like he wants his dad to not be bullied. Like,
Right.
Don't take this anymore. Stand up for yourself and be a man who stands up for yourself. And so that got me thinking about the importance of dads living in a way that allows their children to see them as Superman,
Mm-hmm.
and the comfort that brings kids. Like the ability to look across the room and say, if my dad has me, nothing can happen to me.
Right.
Like how important that security is to a kid, whether they're 2, 3, 4 years old, or in Marty's case, what is he, 17 or 18 in the movie? That's just very important. I remember we were at a theme park, and Lincoln rode her first roller coaster.
Nice.
And she was terrified. Like it was an actual roller coaster. She was just barely tall enough, but she was worried because it's like, what if this seat breaks? And like I know it's not going to break, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I say it's okay. I'll hold it. And she's like, my dad's stronger than metal, and she felt safe.
Yeah.
Right. And just how important that is for a child to know that their dad, or, in some cases it might be father figure or somebody like that, but like a dad or father figure is strong enough, brave enough, and willing to be Superman and protect them at all costs, and just the security that brings among children. I can, our foster kids, is in a different way. So we haven't been foster parents in a long time, but they experienced going from having they were with their mom, and then they were removed from their mom, and then one of them went with their dad, and then were put back with their mom. But when they were put into foster care, they went from one home to the next, and then they got to our home. And the insecurity of that, and trying to instill confidence in them that this is stable, and I think that's also part of what fathers are supposed to do, is provide that stability for kids. And I think you can see in Marty that his dad, because his dad allows himself to be bullied so much and just gives into that, Marty has not experienced that level of stability from his dad.
Mm-hmm.
He loves his dad, wants his dad to be better, thinks his dad can be better, and still thinks the world of his dad, but his dad isn't somebody he can go to for protection. His dad isn't someone he can go to when he needs strength, when he needs somebody to stand up and be courageous. So that's where I was going with that. Is you just, when you meet Marty, you get this picture of a kid whose dad is not Superman, and they don't see their dad in that light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of the launching pad for the entire story. Like, that's Marty, because he goes back in time, in a very weird way, becomes his dad's mentor.
Yeah.
He's the one teaching his dad how to be strong.
Yeah. And he's trying to fight off his mom.
Right. Yeah, true. Yeah. He's the one teaching his dad how to be strong. He's the one teaching his dad to stand up for bullies, stand up against bullies. He's the one who's trying to teach his dad and put his dad in a position where he actually has to stand up against the bully, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just think that theme is so prevalent, but it also suggests and shows us the truth of what we already know, that kids need that from their fathers.
Even if they don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, in your sense, and I know that our kids are, a few years apart, but, you were talking about the roller coaster, and it made me think, as you were telling that story, about my dad's stronger than metal. It made me think about, like, our drive here, and I know we joke about it, but the roads were really bad, and Ronan is in the back seat, and he's carrying on like there's no cause for concern, and I am white knuckling the steering wheel, thinking the success is getting my family to your house safely. That's success. Because we wanted to stop at Walmart and we wanted to stop and get food. I had to go to the bathroom for 45 minutes. I was, ready to go. I was full. And I'm driving, and there's slush and snow, and it's like a whiteout. And Ronan's in the back seat. Mom, it's foggy out. Why is it so white outside? Mommy, are we there yet? Mommy, are we there yet? And he's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Because I want to be out of the car. And he has no idea the gravity of the situation. And so I was thinking of that, like he's so comfortable with mom and dad and feels so safe that he doesn't even think that there could be something to fear. So that's just kind of what I thought of when you were talking about that. So even parents that don't, even kids that aren't aware of what Lincoln was aware of in that situation, that's still kind of what you're talking about. It's still born out of that fundamental, I don't have to be afraid because mom and dad got me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see that, you can tell the difference between kids who have that type of sense of security that comes from their mom and dad,
right?
Versus kids that don't. You can see that in the way they behave, in the way they respond to difficulty when things go wrong, how they respond when they're in a whiteout situation on a road. Kids who have had that level of security, or even adults, are more apt to take it in stride and optimism and believe everything can be okay.
Right.
Versus high anxiety and struggle and nervousness. And not that, I'm not saying that kids who have security from their parents are never going to be nervous or anything like they're anxious or anything.
Well, no, but I think it leads to passing of the torch and how important that is, and how much, that's lost in our, en masse in our American culture is fathers looking at their kid. I even do this with Ronan. Every time I leave the house and Kayla's at home alone with the kids, I always look at Ronan and I say, okay, I'm leaving. This is your house. You need to protect your mom, and you need to do what she says, and you need to look after your brother. And that passing of that male authority, even at a young age, he's not going to do anything. He's going to make a mess in his toy room, and he's going to go, flush bugs down the toilet or something dumb, right? He's gonna do what 4-year-olds do, but he's starting to understand, like, oh, like bad guys and good guys, and I don't want the bad guys to get mommy or Riker. And it's even to the point now. I was actually, I got hurt at jiu-jitsu last Monday, and we were rolling, and I pulled a muscle really bad in my neck, and Kayla did it before she went to work on Monday. On Tuesday morning. And he's like, and it was really funny because, 4-year-old, and Ronan, he's pretty headstrong. And Kayla was in the hallway, and I was laying in bed trying to like loosen up. And she goes, okay, you need to help Dad. And he goes, right, I need to protect Dad, so I'm in charge. So even just passing that responsibility and getting your kids used to passing that down from dad to boys, and then in the situation of fathers and daughters. Now I don't have any daughters, but still that the responsibility of protecting herself from other men, so that when Dad's not there, she has the ability and the fortitude and the determination to do it on her own. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But all of that starts with Mom and Dad are safe.
Yeah.
And that's kind of bringing that back to it. So, okay, George and Lorraine.
It kind of goes hand in hand with that, but just from the perspective of George and Lorraine. So, now, if I understand correctly, Lorraine and George, at least at the beginning of the movie, are together essentially because Lorraine feels sorry for George when he gets hit by the car.
That's right. That's right.
So in the story, that's how they got together. Is Lorraine's dad, so Marty's grandpa, hit George with the car, and through nursing him to health, they fell in love. So like, it's this scenario. But then now in the story, when you actually meet them in the story, it doesn't seem to be, not that they're at odds or anything, but there's
it's not love,
passion,
connection.
There's no love, there's not like, it's just existence together in marriage.
It's kind of a couple. Well, no, the podcast that was just released today, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. If you guys haven't seen that, go check it out. But we talked about transactional. Mm-hmm. And in a way, emotionally, it was transactional. Mm-hmm. So that would be, we kind of talked about that a little bit, where it's a business contract. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
Yeah. But it came about because she
felt bad.
Help him.
Yeah.
And while that could be a great way to meet somebody, I guess, is like you get hit by their dad's car, and they help you get better. But again, this, our society is kind of, anti-male, anti-masculinity, things like that. But this movie, and I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't know if the people who wrote Back to the Future were really trying to hammer this point home, but whether it was on purpose or not, they did. Men need to be strong, because the reason that there's no passion, the reason that there's no love, the reason that there's none of that within the marriage between George and Lorraine is because of George. For the same reason that Marty is frustrated with his dad being bullied all the time, mm-hmm. Lorraine married a man who can be bullied all the time. Right. And so there's not going to be any passion there. There's not going to be any strength. The Bible says, act like men, right? Mm-hmm. Be strong and let all that you do be done in love. The strength is missing. So men need to have that strength, and they need to be, and that's kind of what Marty is training his dad to be when he goes back in time, is be a stronger man who actually pursues and pursues your wife, right? Pursues the woman that you want to be with, and you be the initiator. You be the one who's making things happen. And when a bully comes and bullies you and tries to beat you down and discourage you from pursuing that, punch him in the face and pursue it anyway, right? Like, right. And that's what George is learning to be. And
But I also think we need to point out too that at the beginning of the movie, they're it's not like Marty's kind of like whatever about mom and dad,
Mhm.
right? He's like whatever, and to some degree, the movie is about, in this sense, the movie is about understanding why your parents are the way they are.
Mhm.
That's kind of the entire
Yeah.
plot of the movie is whatever, mom and dad, I don't get them, but then my science buddy has this, 1.21 gigawatt flux capacitor that can send me back into the future, and I understand now why my parents are the way they are. And it's because my dad was bullied, and he didn't have the courage and the boldness to defeat his bully and win the heart of the girl.
Yeah.
And now, in, 1985, he's seeing, as a kid, he's seeing the consequences of that. So this kind of segues into the cause and effect of sin and righteousness as our next point. If you were finished, we can
go for it.
Okay. Well, that's kind of the point. Is you're seeing the cause and effect of sin, a lot in George and Biff for sure, and that will segue into my next kind of mystery point. But the movie does a really good job of demonstrating consequences in their extremes, because they always have to go back to the future to fix the one little decision that altered all of reality when they get back to 1985. Right? And it's 1985 and 1955 and then 1885. So that was it was a very brief point, but when I'm thinking of Biff and I'm thinking of George, Marty and Doc, I'm thinking of there's good guys and there's bad guys with bad intentions and good intentions, and each individual little decision is a battle back and forth to win reality, essentially, in their own favor. And then in all of that, he learns who his parents are and why they are the way they are. Yeah. So that was just kind of a little idea.
Yeah. It is growing to understand why are my parents this way? Why is my
parents are people too, man.
My dad, and also to realize this same guy has been bullying my dad for his entire life.
And now my dad works for him.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is the guy who bullied him in high school.
Yeah.
And now he's bullied as an employee. And understanding that, and so that's an area where, even though all of that flips on its head and changes by the end of the movie, right? Like, George is now the one who's Biff's boss and things like that. Marty does have to come to that realization and understanding, and maybe, I don't know, I can't think of a better word for it, but like empathizing with where his parents come from and why they are the way they are, why their relationship is the way it is, why, why George isn't willing to stand up to Biff and all of that. And he does learn that throughout the entire time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your mystery?
Okay, so for the mystery point, I think there could be an argument made. Now, this is preliminary, so you're going to have to help me think through this. Okay? I think there's an argument that could be made that we're missing a character.
Missing a character.
Missing a character. So we've talked about the main characters, right? So we talked about Marty, Doc Brown, Lorraine, George, Biff. And what we don't have listed here is Jennifer. Okay? So those are the main characters. I was thinking a little bit more abstractly. When's the setting of the movie? 1985.
And 55.
Right, but they start in
85.
1985.
Yeah.
I think 1985 is a character.
Okay.
And I think as a character, it represents truth.
All right. I need some more here because I don't know what you're talking about. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So to me, I started thinking, and I know this is a little out there and I might be stretching a little far, but if we create a character out of the actual year and it symbolizes truth, then you have two types of two archetypes that embody good and evil outside of that. So 1985 could be essentially God. It's truth, the nature of that reality, and it's not a person. It's not isolated to a body. It's just the essence of truth. And then you have Doc and Marty as the good guys fighting to get things back to as normal as they can, get things back to as close to the truth as they can. And you have Biff trying to win things in his own favor. And and when I started thinking of it in those terms, it kind of started to think of spiritual warfare over us humans, where there's manipulation and there's truth and there's, the sinful desires that are used as temptations to pull us away from the truth, to pull us further into a different 1985 that is false. But then you have the other side of the spiritual warfare, where you have angels or whatever pulling you, or you have the gospel itself pulling you to the truth, which would be the real 1985. What do you think about that?
So the first question that comes to mind is, what do you do with the fact that it still changes?
So it still changes because, like, you can't get to, like, I'm still kind of working that one out, but the best I got is we're only able to know as close to the truth as the Bible speaks on. And if the Bible is silent in some areas, as much as our curiosity would like to know, we can't know. So there is a limit to the truth that we can get. Now, it doesn't mean that it's because we don't have 100% of all of the information that is the truth. Like if God came down and just put everything in the Bible, then it doesn't mean that if we don't have that it's not enough, because the scriptures say, we have everything we need for righteousness, So I guess that was kind of my thought in terms of the reality still changes, but it's as close to the truth that they can get with what they've been given.
You also have
there's a limit to every metaphor,
right? And I'm gonna go with it, but then maybe take a little bit of a turn from it as well. So 1985 being truth. You could also kind of look at 1985 as creation.
Okay,
so there's a way that things have played out that
is good,
that have made 1985 at the beginning of the movie, the McFly family, not ideal.
Right.
And when Marty McFly goes back, he's essentially playing the role of a Christian in the world, setting things right.
Right.
To make them, so like when he gets back, there's a lot of problems going on. But even in his own time, in his own life, there's problems there.
Right.
So, but he goes back in time and new problems arise. But what he ends up doing and working to resolve those things is he makes his 1985 better. So it's like you're excited about something here.
Yeah.
It's like reformation.
I wrote that down.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's being salt in the world. He is working to make things better, to solve problems, and through that, the bullies are being put down. So those, the Bible says, the first will be last and the last will be first. You see that actually taking place through the process of solving problems in 1955, being salt, bringing resolution to things, and then now you see the bully is now down where they belong.
Right.
Like the first became last. George McFly, the one who's bullied, who's humble, humiliated, is now first.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you see the setting right of things.
Right.
There.
So I didn't say all of that specifically, but this is some of my notes. I'll read them off. So it's a metaphor or allegory of battle of sin and righteousness, Satan and God. You have Doc, Marty, and Biff. Biff is evil, pride, greed, selfishness. Doc is the moral atheist, leaning on his own understanding but has a sense of morality. Marty brings about truth, always returning back to the standard of the original 1985. Look at 1985 before the story opens as a character. This would equate to objective truth. Other characters' decisions are based on how they react to that truth. If it changes, it's a false reality. Leads to death in some way. Death presents itself as a lost job, broken relationships, literal death, forms of slavery. And to your point, like I said, Marty is always trying to bring it back to as close to the original 1985 as possible. And I may be getting some of the movies conflated, but I think I am actually, because I've seen them all so many times. But I mean, even in some of if we look at all of the movies, like you have when they go into the future, Marty loses his job. Mm-hmm. Okay. Doc, like he's got to save Doc, and then he's got to save Doc again when he goes to the Wild West in 1885. So there's always death from the consequences of changing the truth or corrupting the original 1885. There's a form of payment that has to be solved or fixed. Fixed. Yeah. So that was kind of my off the wall.
Yeah,
abstract.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah, I mean that's good stuff. That's all. That's the kind of thing that all stories in some way are going to reflect that grand narrative of Scripture and of the Bible and of God setting things right with the world, because that's ultimately the greatest longing of the human heart, is to be right with God.
Right.
And whether we know that, whether we want to admit it or not, whether you're the atheist, whether you're Buddhist, whatever, the longing of your heart is to be made right with God and to be in right standing, to be in right relationship with the truth. And so it makes perfect sense that our stories that we're writing are going to reflect that internal longing that we have. And even from, I don't know who the screenwriter was for Back to the Future. Like, I have no idea. Maybe they're an atheist, maybe they're not, maybe they're a Christian, maybe they're some other belief system, maybe agnostic, but regardless, every single person has that desire in common to be made right with God. It's the greatest longing of their heart, so it makes sense that the story would reflect that in countless ways. And I think
so essentially what you're saying is if the Bible's not true, story wouldn't relate.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Story
relates because we're made in God's image, and God is narrating a story, and that's part of his image.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there you go. Romans 1, we suppress the truth in unrighteousness. It's written on our heart, and we know it's true. And because of that, stories relate.
Yeah. And I think it was Mike Winger that I actually heard this analogy first, but he was talking about that suppression of truth in unrighteousness, and he used the analogy of trying to hold a balloon underwater.
I've heard that.
And so sometimes it gets to the surface.
Yeah.
And stories are one way that gets to the surface. like the grand narrative of stories.
Right.
As hard as we try to just suppress that truth, it rises to the surface. And stories is one of the primary ways that does that in life. We can see that. So, yeah, I love that.
Discussion questions.
Yeah, we've already talked about some of them, but the one that I think most might be interesting is...
Oh, we did. We kind of did talk
we
about them all.
But the one that we haven't is, can you think of any movies, like modern movies, recent movies, that feel the same as Back to the Future?
I can think of one.
One?
And I'm going to forget the name of it.
This is a bad episode for
It's
names.
a very bad episode for names. Yeah. I blame the drive.
Okay.
I blame the drive.
Your nerves are just shot from the drive.
No, I think it's more just brain fatigue from being stressed. But anyway, I would say that this movie, it's got Mark Wahlberg in it, and it's a newer movie. I'm going to look it up because I want to tell people, because it was such a fun movie to watch.
Mark Wahlberg. I haven't seen a Mark Wahlberg movie in a long time.
It was so good. I'm going to look it up here. Can you think of anything?
No, that's actually why I brought it. I could not think of a single movie that I felt like shared the tone with Back to the Future.
The Family Plan.
Okay, haven't seen it.
The Family Plan. It's brand new.
Yeah.
It's so good. We watched it at over Christmas.
Okay.
And it's a blast. It's a blast. It's such a fun movie.
Yeah.
We should definitely do a review on it.
Okay.
So the premise of the movie is about Mark Wahlberg's character. Just a little fill you in. Is about Mark Wahlberg's character as a dad. Okay, and he used to be a military guy that got recruited into this super secret like CIA branch of the CIA or something like that. And then he like got out and then met his wife and had a family.
Okay.
And then it actually kind of relates because the mirage of himself that he made is kind of the guy that gets picked on. He's kind of just like your everyday dad that, is kind of a dork. But not in the sense of...
It's hard to imagine Mark Wahlberg as a dork.
Yeah. Not in the sense of like he's a bad dad or anything like that, like they did in Sing with all of the like absent fathers and stuff. In that story, it wasn't like that. It was like, it's just him as a guy, like someone would be a nerd or someone would be a dork. And there's a scene where kind of like you were talking about George McFly, where he's just bullied all the time and gets bullied. And this happens where he takes his wife to the fair on an anniversary night or something, and these younger kids spill, like they pour his drink over his head and they make fun of him. And the cinematography and the writers and the screenplay people all did a really good job making that scene, because you don't know anything in the movie yet at this point, but you know something, like he's somebody, but you don't know what he is, because you don't really, like, it hasn't been told to you yet. But they did a really good job capturing that on screen, where his emotions and his facial expressions and stuff was like, I'm not going to do anything, but I could rid you from the earth. And that was such a cool scene to portray. So he just walked away, like, and then everybody around him, but him and the viewer thought he was a dork, but you get like, and then the next scene is he's in the grocery store and he beats this guy to a pulp and he goes off. But yeah, that was such a fun movie. So I would say the air of that movie is like the air of this movie. Totally different type of movie. But the air of the movie is very fun and upbeat the entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I'll have to watch it.
It's so good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think that's it.
That's it, man. Cool. Well, we appreciate anybody that watches. We had a lot of fun. Made a lot of mistakes. Couldn't think of any names. I spilled my drink. Like I said I would before we started recording. Again, guys, if you wouldn't mind, we would really appreciate you guys to subscribe, share the podcast with somebody that you know, that you feel would be blessed by it, and head to our social media pages, follow us there, and comment down below. The algorithms like comments, and I obviously need people to stand up for me in the comments, because you say something crazy like marriage is between a man and a woman, and the internet immediately hates you.
Lots of people on the internet.
Lots of people immediately hate you when you say something as normal as marriage is for a man and a woman. Hey guys, it's Parker from the WatchWell Podcast. If you liked this video, we want to go ahead and have you subscribe right here on this button. If you want to watch the full podcast episode, go ahead and click right here. And if you want to watch another WatchWell clip, go ahead and click right here. And remember, if you're going to watch well. We'll see you in the next one.